Greetings and welcome to Bubble Hearthing. I'm Bubble and you're fantastic. And that hand's about to almost looks like it's going to give me some head pats if I'm optimistic. If I'm not, it's going to crush my brain. So anyway, and the skull as well. I guess you can crush the skull first and the brain, unless the brain comes out there. Anywho, welcome to my review of all the blue cards for Innistrad Crimson Vow, where you've been invited to the vampire wedding of all time, potentially. I don't know. Is that a little much to say? Where lovely Olivia Valdarin and sleepy Edgar Markov are being united in unholy matrimony. I already said that kind of sort of thing for the white review, so let's get right in to the blue stuff. There we go. Alchemist's Retrieval is a 1-mana instant. Oh, we get to talk about Cleave already. Cool. Also, see the blood token over there? We're probably going to have a few cards that reference those things. We'll talk about it when we get to it. Otherwise, you can just use that for reference, because I don't want to forget to put it up later. So it's there now. Okay. So, Cleave is an alternate cost you can pay, where if you pay the Cleave cost, you get to omit certain parts, certain restrictions of the card. Baseline, this is a 1-mana instant return target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. You read the whole thing, there it is. Okay. It has to be something you control. Not very exciting there. You can use it to save one of your things from removal maybe, but not fantastic. If you pay the Cleave cost, however, which is just 1 more mana, you get to ignore that little you control clause in the square brackets, so it becomes return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Not too shabby. It's a nice introduction to Cleave, to show you like the kind of power there, and you can kind of imagine like, hold on, what if it took out the non-land part? What if it's just permanent? That can bounce lands now, which is weird, but I guess if your opponent animates a land, like, you know, a Faceless Haven or Lair of the Hydra, who knows, you could have bounced those now. So, you see where I'm going with this. As for the actual evaluation, it's okay. In Limited, it's not bad. I'd say like a 2 out of 5. Bounce spells are nice to have, and a 2-mana return your opponent's thing is fine. In Standard, it's not very good. If it had some sort of card draw effect attached to it, which another version of this does, then we're talking. So I think this is kind of a weaker version of an effect that we've already seen a few times. Binding Geist is a 3-mana 3/1 Spirit. Spirit matters. Whenever it attacks, target creature an opponent controls gets -2/-0 until end of turn, and you can disturb. So, I said in the white review, I'll say it again. The disturb cards in this set do not flip over to creatures, or at least most of them don't. I'm pretty sure none of them do, but I don't know, I could be wrong. They flip over to enchantments that either enchant other creatures and make them basically that have the same like effects as the front side, or something entirely different, but they're enchantments. There's some that are enchant. So I've seen enchant aura and enchant like curse your opponent. So that's what I've gotten so far. Anyway. So the ability, if you just have a 3-mana 3/1 attack and something gets -2/-0, is okay. It might trade up here and there. Unfortunately, if you're trading up with this, then usually you're blocking with it, which isn't fantastic because you want to be attacking to trigger that ability. So I'd say like about a 2.5 out of 5, especially because there is some spirit synergy in this in the set, and you get the other side of this, which is quote-unquote free, right? For the disturb there, it only costs 2 to actually enchant something. You could put this on a bigger creature and make your opponent really have a hard time blocking. Yeah, not too shabby. You know what? I'll even take it up 1 notch. If you have synergies, 3 out of 5. Cool. In Standard, no, but it's still pretty nice. Alright, Biolume Egg. This is a... Honestly, when I first read this, I was like, why? How? Okay, I guess. Thing in the ice? So, 3-mana, 0/4 Defender, Serpent, but also Egg. Egg Tribal, let's go. Alright, when it enters the battlefield, you scry 2. Okay. First off, as just a Defender scry 2, I would like... Wow. I was going to say I would want, and I would like, and I said I would like. Sure. I would like a 2-mana 0/4 scry 2. Baseline. So, without the other effect here, this card's kind of trash. When you sacrifice Biolume Egg, return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So, very relevant here. There are 2 ways I can think of where you will sacrifice this in Limited. Either exploit or by invitation only, which is the white board wipe, which causes players to sacrifice creatures. Otherwise, there is no way to sacrifice this to its own effect. There's no effect that lets you just trigger that last part on its own. You need some synergy. 9 out of 10 times is going to be exploit. So, the other side, is it worth it? Well, Biolume Serpent. Yeah, like I said, thing in the ice. It's a 4 mana, not 4, it's a 4/4, and you can sacrifice 2 islands to have this become unblockable for the turn. That's a really hefty cost there. Like, you do not want to do that early in the game. You are going to put all your eggs in this one, it looks big, but it's not that big sized basket. Like, okay, but Questing Beast says hello. I mean, you still can be unblockable, but, you know, jeez. It has, like, the format of a rare card, but the stats of an uncommon, so I'm glad they didn't make it rare, because they definitely could have. God, I don't like this card, though. I guess in Limited, despite saying that, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. If you're just running, like, Dimir, because there's a lot of black exploit, who knew? But if you're not, like, this is tough. You want to be mono blue, because you want to have islands, but you want to run black for exploit. 2.5 out of 5 there. In Standard, where you can actually build a deck around this, still, I don't like it that much. Like, 1.5 maybe. Ugh. Alright, Cemetery Illuminator. Also, this is a part of a cycle, I believe. Yeah, each color has some creature with Cemetery in the name, and it exiles cards and stuff. I just think it's a neat little thing they did. So, 3 mana, 2/3 Flying Spirit. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard. You may look at the top card of your library anytime at instant speed. It's a joke. Once each turn, you may cast a spell from the top of your library if it shares a card type with a card exiled with Cemetery Illuminator. Okay. Worth noting, it does say, let's see, cast, so you cannot play lands off the top with this. Doesn't work. You do not cast lands, you play lands. Just as a gameplay mechanic thing. Alright. Let's see there. Into the battlefield or attacks. Straight up 3 mana 2/3 flyer that exiles things. Exile on ETB. And you can look at the top card. Not a huge benefit to the top card thing, but it's good. Yeah, this card's great. I would play it in pretty much anything I had in Standard, in Limited rather. So like, that's a 3.5, maybe even 4 out of 5. Like it's just good. It doesn't have to be super showy. Now that last ability though is where it can shine, right? So let's see. It's because it's illuminating things. I know what I said. I'm not going to apologize. So you can use this in a deck where you have basically only creatures, exile your own things, and then you can just play cards off the top whenever you want to. Only once per turn, but still, you can do it. And you can set up your next turn. If you have any sort of mill, then you can just know ahead of time what you're doing. If you have any blood tokens that you're going to be generating, you can know what the top card is going to be and turn your rummage, where you're kind of blindly going through, into more or less a loot effect where you know what you're going to get and you can discard accordingly. Geez, this card's nice. You do have to build a deck around it, or just, you know, use it to hit your opponent's things. Super solid card. Honestly, I think this is going to be fantastic. In Standard, you know what? I'm going to say 3.5. I'm not going to give it the 4. Not quite. But it's nice. Chill of the Grave. Change my mind. 4 out of 5 Standard. Deal with it. So, Chill of the Grave is a 3-mana instant. The spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a zombie, which isn't too hard to do. There's zombies in this set. There's zombies in the last set. There's going to be some limited format where you actually draft, or actually craft a deck from both Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt sets, so that's cool there. And there are zombie tokens in this set that do not decay. Hey. Tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its control. Is next on tap, draw a card. So if you don't have a zombie, it's a 3 mana, you tap something for a little bit and you draw. Not excited on that, but for 2 mana that effect, it's nice. Yeah, honestly. If I had this and didn't have zombies, I could play one of them in the deck and maybe side it out for a little thing that's more relevant in future games. If I have zombies, I'm playing this card every time. Yeah, this is good. If I have enough zombies, absolutely. If there's a zombie tribal, which there can be like Reanimator tribal, certainly, with both types of zombies, you know, the Stitchers and whatnot, and Scabs. Are Scabs zombies? I think they're just Scabs. Ugh. Or Scab, I don't know. It's like double A. Yeah, though, I like this card, for sure. Limited, like, you know, 2.5, 3 to 5, yeah. If you have the zombie to go with it, yeah. I'd go lean towards the 3. In Standard, no. You can do better things to draw cards for 3 mana, or 2 mana. But yeah, Cobbled Lancer, the horse that's that's a centaur that's still a horse. 1 mana, 3/3. As your initial cost to cast this spell, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Guys, this isn't bad. You're probably not playing this turn 1, because how did you get a creature card into your graveyard? You cycled Straight Wraith. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. In all seriousness, though, probably not playing this turn 1, but later on when you have a mana floating around, like, or just a mana free, and creatures in the graveyard, this is definitely a good place to put the mana. There's nothing wrong with, oh, I have 1 mana, I'll put a 3/3 on the board, why not? This card's solid. And you can exile it from the graveyard to draw a card. This is really, really good. I don't know if you would keep this in an opening hand unless you had, like, if you had other creatures. If this is your only creature in your opening hand, you might want to mulligan. But yeah, you can play this even in like some kind of self-mill deck. If it is in the graveyard, there's some value there. Not a whole lot, but it's something. If it's in your hand, you can... Yeah. I'm not too high on, like, Dimir or even, like, just mono blue aggro revolving around this card. But I think there's a deck that makes this work. Therefore, I'm going to say limited, like, 4 out of 5, just of the sheer utility. It's nearly a free 3/3. I've said it in other set reviews. I'll say it every single time. Do not ignore cards that cost 1, especially 0. But, yeah, they cost 1 or less. Just do not. Yeah, standard, probably... Limited, like, 5 out of 5. Yeah, limited 5 out of 5. To hell with that. And standard is going to be like a 3.5. Okay, Consuming Tide is a 4-mana sorcery, and it's rare. Each player chooses a non-land... Oh, this is a weird one. Oh, God, I wish I had glasses. Okay. I just remember what this card is, and it's strange. All right. We got to take notes here. Hold on. Notebook. Okay, here's my notebook. The cover is green, so you can't really see it so well, but okay. Each player chooses a non-land permanent they control. Okay, I choose that one. Gotcha. Return all non-land permanents not chosen this way to their owner's hands. Then, you draw a card for each opponent who has more cards in hand than you. So this is obviously geared more towards, like, you know, playing against more than just one person at a time. You know, some sort of commander or two-headed giant, whatever you're trying to do. Jeez, do people even do that anymore? I mean, it's fun, but, like, I've never heard of people doing that in the last year. So, two-headed giant. Commander, absolutely. So, how does this actually function? Each player gets to choose something that does not return to the hand. So they both players, or all players, choose a permanent that stays on the battlefield. The other non-lands go back, and then... If you have fewer things on the board, or just not that many cards in hand, your opponents had more, then you can draw some cards. Ugh. No, this is a bad card. This is not good. In 1v1. Absolutely not. Don't like it. Can't stand it. Yeah, no. 0 out of 5. 0 out of 5. 1 out of 5? 1 out of 5. I don't want to say 0 out of 5. There's something, I'm bouncing things, I'm getting other stuff done. Your opponent has to replay the cards if they had more than you, and then you might draw a thing, but 1 out of 5 and limited. Standard is useless. Get out of here. Freaking rare. Waste of a rare slot. Cradle of Safety. They could have put this card in a commander deck, and that'd be fine. I don't want to see this when I'm drafting or in sealed. Don't want to open this in a pack. Alright, Cradle of Safety is an aura, 2-mana flash aura. When it enters the battlefield, an enchanted creature gets hexproof until turn, and it gets +1/+1 forever. Yeah, not bad. It's pretty fair. Let's see, hexproof and a little buff there. So this is like a pseudo counter spell. Your opponent tries to kill something. You have 2 mana. I'm gonna flash this in. You can't target my creature. The burn spell or the kill spell fizzles, and it leaves a little buff behind there. There are various cards in white and potentially other colors where enchantments matter. So it's nice to have that other little ability there and to just have this linger around. Cool, nothing wrong with this. Like a 2.5 out of 5, not bad. Standard, useless, but in limited, it has some utility. Cruel Witness. This card. First off, you have to figure out what you're looking at. Then you have to figure out where you're looking at it. Like, the more you look at it, the more it looks at you, and it's kind of terrifying and amazing at the same time. Honestly, Vincent, well done here. Hats off to you, the artist. 4-mana 3/3 flyer. Whenever you stare at this card, you incur one more nightmare. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. So this is a little self-mill stuff. Of course, it's non-creature, so it's not... Usually you want to mill creatures to disturb them, so it loses a little bit of synergy with itself there, but that being said, like, you just get to look at the top card even. You don't even have to mill it if you don't want to. Solid card, 4 mana 3/3 flyer with some upside is great. 3 out of 5 limited. This is not the mill that you really need in standard. There are better ways to do things, so not going to see any standard play, but still limited. Awesome. Driver Scab. Okay, this is a zombie. Cool. For some reason, I thought they had their own type. Maybe they did in the past. Maybe I'm just crazy. I don't know. So, for 5 mana, you get a 3/5 with Exploit. There it is. When this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. Worth noting, this isn't like the Oracle text. Not Oracle text, but like in the rules, whatever. You can only sacrifice one creature. If you want to sacrifice your whole board, because whatever reason, you can't. You gotta pick one. I know. I thought when I first read these sort of things years ago that, you know, you could just kind of exploit a million things. No. Okay. Whenever it exploits a creature, target creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. So 5 mana 3/5, and you can have the creature come back if there's some sort of ETB trigger. Cool. If not, you can put it on the bottom of your library if you want to, if you don't want to draw it. But if you'd rather have it in your graveyard, well, it's, let's see. It's not going to the graveyard. That's it. There's no option. It either goes to the top or bottom of the library. Kind of iffy there. Not really huge on that. And standard is useless. In limited, because in standard you probably want the creature in the graveyard. Just saying. In limited, though, if you have some ETB effects that you want to reuse, then it's not terrible. So maybe a 2 out of 5 if you have ETBs. Otherwise, I'm going to put this pretty far down, like a 1 out of 5. Because a 5 mana 3/5 lose a creature, maybe lose a draw step. I don't like it. Dreadlight Monstrosity, a crab horror. That some of the types in this set are actually really cool. So, for 6 mana, you get a 5/5 with Ward 2. Not bad. And for 5 mana, it becomes unblockable. Can't be blocked this turn. Activate only if you own a card in exile. The most likely way you're going to have a card in exile is you're going to disturb something, and the disturbed aura or whatever is going to go away. They're going to kill the creature that you disturbed the enchantment onto, and you're going to have a card exiled that way. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. Beyond that, I think there might be some white exile stuff. There's the Savior of Allenbach that can exile things. Oh no! Right. But still, like a 6 mana 5/5 Ward 2 is something to be reckoned with. It's something your opponent has to answer and has to pay a little more to answer in limited. And the fact that it can become unblockable is great. That's a serious clock. That's like, 2 or 3 turns usually by that time in the game, and then you win. Well done. And I love that you just have to have a card in exile. You don't have to exile a card from your graveyard to activate it. You don't have to return a card from exile to the graveyard, which would be an insane effect and would actually be busted in many, many ways. But it's just, oh, you got that in there? Cool. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you fulfill the requirements. You're fine. Yeah, in limited, this is definitely a curve topper. Like 4 out of 5 limited. Super solid. Gets the job done. Not in standard, but it's okay. Some cards are made for limited. Alright, 3 mana Dream Shackle Geist. It's a 3/1 flyer. Spirit, of course, hence the Geist. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose up to 1. When I first read this, I thought you had to choose 1, and it had bad times associated with it, but it's up to 1, so thank goodness it's essentially optional. You can either do nothing, tap target creature, or target creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Let's see. This does not have to attack to activate that ability, so you can just have this lingering back as, threatening to block your opponent's 5/3 or whatever it is, or 4/2, I guess, whatever, and, be okay with that. Or just have this back and don't put this in combat. Don't risk it dying to either, damage, or your opponent's playing white and they have the whole destroy target top creature thing. You can just tap your opponent's creatures. If they decide to attack, you can let it through and keep their thing down for a turn. Super solid card there, honestly. In limited, like 4 out of 5. It's great. I see no reason to take this card. In standard, more of a sideboard kind of thing. I could see this sided in against, kind of creature-heavy decks or things that rely on a couple, either maybe not things that go wide, because having a 3-mana 3/1 against a wide deck isn't great, but having things that rely on a couple key creatures, yeah. Let's see. And beyond that, in Spirit decks, of course, yeah, it's a lovely card to have. Probably like a 3 out of 5 in Standard and a 4 out of 5 Limited. Fear of Death. I think, wow, how do I phrase this to make it sound witty and not like I'm trying to think too hard about it? Okay. Insert joke here about fear of public speaking. Damn, alright. Should have rehearsed that one. Anyway, 2 mana, enchantment aura. When Fear of Death enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards. Just send the top 2 cards library to the graveyard. An enchanted creature gets -X/-0, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. So baseline, you play this on your opponent's creature. You still mill 2 as the owner of the card, right? And your opponent's creature gets at least -0, at least -2/-0. Best case, this is kind of a pacifism. Worst case, it's a small thing that eventually becomes a pacifism. Yeah, solid limited card. Nothing wrong with this. 2.5, even 3 out of 5. Like, and the fact that there is a decent amount of disturb in blue. Yeah, you're good. You're not upset to take this card. In Standard, it's not good, but otherwise, it's okay. Geist Light Snare. I actually really like the skull in this one. It reminds me of Warlock class. Anyhow, 3 mana instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you take a drink. Okay, this spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a spirit. It also costs 1 less to cast if you control an enchantment. So if you have a spirit and an enchantment, it costs 2 less to cast. Yes, it does stack. That's kind of rare to have in a card. Usually it's like one or the other, so worth noting there. And counter target spell, unless its controller pays 3. Once upon a time, there was a card called Mana Leak. It's a 2-mana spell that just had that, bottom line, the counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. So if you fulfill one of the requirements, this is Mana Leak. Oh, and by the way, that's all like top, like Pro Tour, Grand Prix, whatever the hell the tournament name was called back in the day. Yeah, that's all play in like the top 8, top 16 decks there. It's a legit card. So, let's see. So once upon a time, there was that. This can become that if you meet one of those requirements. If you meet both, it is a 1 mana leak, which is insane. Is crazy. I love this card. As a control player, as a blue player, as someone that appreciates Mana Leak. Yeah, honestly, I'm going to say both ways, because there are so many enchantments and spirits in the set. And then, of course, building a deck around it is super easy. 5 out of 5. This card, oh my god, and thank you for being uncommon. Oh, my wild cards, thank you. My wallet, thanks you. I'm probably not going to buy any actual physical copies of this card, because right now, digital's the way to go, because it's 2021, and, there's something called a pandemic going around. But, god damn, this card is great. Thank you, Magic. Thank you, Wizards. I feel ya. We got there. We made it. Geralf, Visionary Stitcher. If you have any doubt to the power, that is, like, to the potential power of this card, just go back to when Mana Leak is legal in Standard or whatever, and watch some gameplay, and just see how many times either the commentator mentions, well, they might have Mana Leak, but they're representing Mana Leak, but they have Mana Leak, or how many times Mana Leak actually gets used. It's amazing. Okay. Geralf, Visionary Stitcher, a 3-mana 1/4 legendary human wizard. Zombies you control have flying. Well, that's a strong line, isn't it? Just suddenly things have flying now. It's also terrifying when you think about it. By the way, you see that undead corpse that's kind of crawling towards you? Now it's flapping towards you. Ooh, nice. Of course, they only fly around like 4 feet from the ground, so it's still terrifying. They might just fly and, like, kick you in the face, but it's not like going over the, it's not going to breach the wall, basically. So, for a blue and tapping this creature, you sacrifice another non-token creature, create an XX blue zombie creature token without Decayed. I just want to clarify that because the last set, all the zombie tokens had Decayed on them. These do not decay. These attack and keep on hitting. Where X is the sacrificed creature's toughness. So, power and toughness. Right. So it wants you to sacrifice something with a big ass. And you turn that ass into just all-around girth, right? That flies. Flying Girth. Demonetized? Yeah, I guess so. It's interesting because you sacrifice a creature and you replace it with another creature. It does not have haste, but this can be done at instant speed. So you know what? Your opponent tries to kill whatever creature. I'm just gonna make it a big zombie that flies, or a little zombie that flies. I'm gonna save that. My hair is doing a weird thing, isn't it? There we go. Problem solved. Yeah, this card's great. In limited, I would say this is like a 4 out of 5 kind of deal. This is nice. I love it. If you have zombie tribal, if not, it like makes flyers out of nowhere. Awesome. Now in standard, a 3-mana 1/4 that might not do a whole lot when it comes down is asking a lot. And it only works well if you have other creatures. That's asking a lot too. So with that going on, I'm going to say like a 1.5 out of 5. I don't think it's going to see much standard play at all. Even if zombies are a thing, I don't know if this, Lord of whatever is going to be the thing that gets it there. But Geralf, welcome back. Gutter Skulker, hey, remind you of anyone? I'm going to say that every time as a reference to Craig Ferguson from the Late Late Show and also Stand Up and stuff. I thought he was funny. So, anyway. It was called the Late Late Show because it came on after the Late Show. See? See? Marketing. Clever design. So, 4 mana 3/3. Can't be blocked as long as it's attacking alone. And Disturb for 4. In Limited, this card is fantastic. Thank you again for an uncommon, really nice card. I love just the eventuality. This thing will attack alone and keep getting through. You can't block it. It puts you on a clock. It puts pressure on your opponent for 4 mana. And it's a spirit which synergizes with things. Hello? Okay. The other side of it basically gives that ability to something else. So when your opponent deals with this, they have to deal with another thing that's going to be unblockable. Insane. In Limited. Hear me out. 5 out of 5. There you go. Thank you for listening. In Standard, usually these sort of unblockable things don't get you very far. If you're making a deck where you only want to attack with one thing, it's usually a control deck, and you can just fit other win cons in there that are not combat-based, maybe even not creature-based. The issue that you run into when you run control plus only like, a handful of creatures, and by that I mean like maybe like, I don't know, 4, even like 5 or less creatures, is you don't play very many creatures, and your opponent usually has removal in their deck, right? And if you're not running creatures, the removal's just dead cards to them. Cool. There's value there. When you play a creature, it will be removed immediately, almost guaranteed, because suddenly they have a target for that thing that's been sitting in their hand since turn 5. So, yeah, this does go into a deck with other creatures, but maybe other utility creatures, right? Maybe other things that kind of work out. Unfortunately, Exalted is not in this because it, synergizes insanely well, but still love this card. Fantastic. Hullbreaker Horror. Okay, we got the Kraken Horror here, which looks like the multi-crab. So, you've crossed the crab with the crab. This is the crab centipede, right? Okay. 7 mana, 7/8 flash, can't be countered. Divide by 0 has entered the chat. No. But that's a very real thing to be aware of. That can't be countered, but for 3 mana, I can just get it out of the way. Whenever you cast a spell, choose up to 1. Either return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand, or return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So this is something where people think, okay, it can be countered, which means you put it in your control deck in a control mirror or something, or as your top end card where this card wins you the game. Flash means that you can largely play around removal and the sorcery speed for sure. And instant speed, if you have an extra mana, the idea is you put this in a deck where you have this thing and a bunch of cheap spells, and it turns all your cheap spells into counter spells, or into divide by zeros essentially, as well as whatever this card does on its own. So you put this in with Consider, and you get to, surveil one, draw a card, and bounce the spell. Or if there's no spells and you gotta get through things, you can bounce, creatures or whatever, and punch through with a 7/8, which is a huge body. The thing is, does this win the game on the spot? No. Can this be countered? Countered by Divide by Zero? Does it feel bad? Yes. However, Divide by Zero can counter a lot of things. It just speaks towards Divide by Zero being good. It doesn't mean this card's bad. Because I've heard a lot of criticism about this thing. People say it's overhyped. I think it's hyped just the right amount, honestly. Balancing it out with all the people knocking it down and saying it's really not that great, and people saying it's insane. I think it's actually pretty good. In Limited, this card's actually super crazy fantastic, and it's like a 4.5, 5 out of 5, take it every single time. In Standard, I'm definitely going to play this as I always try Control. I always try Esper Control in particular, even though I believe that Dimir Control might be the way to go, just because blue and black are really huge colors. In Innistrad, white is usually more of like the humans aggressive sort of thing, and not as much of the removal, even though by invitation only is pretty nice. But yeah, this is certainly going to go in control decks, as well as just maybe it's a top end for some kind of aggro deck. It's not bad. And it's whenever you cast a spell. So if you have other creatures with flash, you can use those to counter things too. Oh, hello, Frilled Mystic again. Okay, I'm getting flashbacks. That's clever. This card, I love it actually. Yeah, 4 out of 5 limited, 4.5 out of 5, and sorry, I keep getting these things mixed up. The higher rating in limited, the slightly lower rating in standard. Done. Inspired Idea. Hey, Geralf, how do you do? Geralf, Revere. The Witcher. That's the reference I'm making. 3 mana sorcery with Cleave. So without Cleave, draw 3 cards. Your maximum hand size is reduced by 3 for the rest of the game. So those 3 cards it's got, well, you're getting rid of some of them, maybe. Let's see. So 3 mana draw 3 is a very strong effect. Keeping in mind that the baseline thing, the thing we always compare draw spells against for 3 mana is Divination. Very classic magic card, which is 3 mana draw 2, sorcery speed. Just that's it. So 3 mana draw 3, therefore, has to have a downside to it. That's just the way life is. Ideally, I guess you play this when you only have one other card in your hand, so your maximum hand size goes down from 7 to 4, and you discard nothing, unless you're playing this in some sort of reanimation, I want to discard these cards. But how often do you really want to discard to hand size? Even though I just said that, I think there is some value to that, where it's like, basically 3 mana, draw 3, maybe discard 2. And if that sounds like a good card that you want in your deck at sorcery speed, you can try playing this card. And I'm not going to fault you. Of course, don't put too many other draw spells in your deck, because unless they're just cantrips, because your hand size has been reduced and you maybe don't want to discard everything. And in multiples, this card's pretty nasty, but hopefully by the time you get a second one of these, you can cast it for the Cleave cost, which is 5 mana, draw 3. Not fantastic. I think it's similar to like Jace's Ingenuity, I think. But I think that's also instant speed. So you're taking away from that. You lose the instant speed ability of that in return for the fact that you can just play it for 3 mana at a, with a bit of a downside. This card, I believe, will only see play. It's not going to see play in control decks at all. You want to keep all the cards in your hand and hold on to them forever. In Reanimator decks, or maybe very aggressive decks, where you can just dump your hand. And I don't believe this card is very good to see in... Actually, no, this is actually pretty nice. 3.5 out of 5 limited. The card draw there is super relevant. You can try to dump your hand beforehand. If not, there's some synergy there. I like it. In Standard, I'm going to put this at a 5 out of 5. And I welcome any sort of civil discourse that may occur. Any sort of argument, I'm going to be that guy. Go ahead, change my mind, and I'll have a little... Here's my beverage. Here. The question here is, how many of these do you play? You play 1 of them, your max hand size is 4. You play 2 of them, your max hand size is 1. You play 3 of them, it's -2. Alright, so I would probably only ever play 3 of these, and then potentially, if I actually get to cast 2 of them, the third one comes down, either Cleave it, don't worry about the reduction, or discard it to hand size, because you cast 2 already. That's my opinion, and I love it. Jacob Hawken. Sure. Inspector. For 2 mana, you get a weird card that costs a lot to pay off, but is it worth it? You be the judge. Legendary Human Advisor, 0/2. Tap, draw a card, then exile a card from your hand face down. You may look at that card as long as it remains exiled. Cool. So just your opponent doesn't know what it is. You may pay 6 mana. This is all part of the same ability. You can't just pay 6 mana whenever. You do have to do it as part of this effect. If you do, you transform the Inspector into his magnifying glass. Hawken's Insight. is a legendary enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library face down. You can look at it, of course. And once during each of your turns, so both yours and your opponent's, you may play a land card or cast a spell from among the cards exiled with this permanent without paying its mana cost. What that means, obviously you can't play, it's still normal timing restrictions. You can't just play a sorcery at instant speed because the cards that can play it. No. But for a very small investment, and for the record, yes, I very much so do like this card. I think that in Limited this is basically a 4 to 5. Your opponent should deal with this, and if they don't, then you're going to get some free nonsense. And let's see, in Standard, it costs so much to get there. Maybe in like a ramp deck, and then you ramp up to, your standard kind of Coma plus other big things, but also Coma. This could be legit. You have your exiled cards. Now, obviously on this side, you just exile for free, just basically mill one. It doesn't really take away anything. The draw and then exile a card, so you're basically looting, but the card isn't actually in the graveyard. It takes away a bit from the set because there is graveyard synergy, but I don't hate it. You can either get rid of cards that are no longer relevant, some like cards from earlier in the game that don't matter too much, or big things that you wouldn't really be able to cast otherwise. Hell, get rid of a thing that costs 6, because if you have 6 mana, you just use its ability. Alright, and let's see. Worth noting, you can, if you have them exiled, play free counterspells with this thing. You can play huge creatures, little creatures, play lands, whatever you get. This side is amazing. So, I think I already said, like 4 to 5 in Limited, maybe 3.5 just because it's only a 0-2. Standard, it's gonna be a hard sell there. I don't know if it's great, but I'll give it a 3. Okay, Lantern Bearer. I want to say that because if I don't enunciate, then it just sounds like Lantern Bear. Like, this is me saying Lantern Bear, as in like a 2-2 bear you see in the woods. This is me saying Lantern Bearer, like, the card, and I'm reading the card's name. It's subtle. It's there, but I don't like it. Alright, 1 mana, 1/1 flyer. This is a great card. Listen, that's a 1 mana, 1/1 flyer Spirit. If you have Spirit Synergy, fantastic. If you have any amount of Disturb, look, this has Disturb. It's fantastic. It gives you the target that you want. On a Spirit, no less, which enchantments and spirits go hand in hand in the set. To enchant things and get value, and it's just a flyer you want to have in the air. Honestly, this card's great. I'm going to say 3 out of 5 in Limited. It's probably going to see some standard play. Not only does the other side give the creature flying, which you would like, but it even gives it its stats. Like, come on. This card's fantastic. 3.5 out of 5 Limited. I'm going to bump that up. Standard, probably 3 still. Maybe 3.5 even. Like, this card's great. As a common, this is a fantastic common. My goodness. Lunar Rejection. For 2 mana, instant speed, return target wolf or werewolf creature to its owner's hand and draw a card. Well, that's narrow if I ever heard it. That's sideboard play if I ever heard it. However, if you cleave it, you can pay 4 mana and just return any creature to its owner's hand and draw a card. So, 4 mana, very reminiscent of Into the Royal, where it had the kicker cost, where you bounce something and draw a card. This card's okay. It's rather narrow. It's not great. I would put it in like a 1.5 out of 5 in Limited, 0 out of 5 in Standard. It's not all that much. If anything, it's a sideboard card, and even then it's not great. I mean, if you're playing specific, because how many, werewolf decks you're going to face? Maybe a few, but I don't think too many. This is coming from me having not reviewed the red and green yet, which is where all the wolves are. So I might eat my words pretty soon. But yeah, I'm not too high on this card. 1 to 1.5 out of 5 in Limited. Just put it in your sideboard, really. In Standard, even if you're looking for a card to go against wolves, I don't think this is the one. I think you want to remove them instead of bouncing them. Mirror Hall Mimic. 4 mana, 0/0. Okay, yeah, it's the shapeshifter. Not shapeshifter, but it's a clone, right? Spirit, you can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it's a spirit. I like that it keeps the spirit typing, because I've said it multiple times, I'll say it again. Spirits have synergy in this set. Spirits matter. It's good to have them on the board. 4 mana clone. It's as strong as the strongest creature on the board. Nothing wrong with that. And the other side of it is, actually it's a little different, isn't it? Yeah. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of enchanted creature, except it's a spirit in addition to its other types. You can still enchant your opponent's creatures and get the tokens. There's nothing wrong with that. Of course, then you might not want to kill your opponent's creature because then you stop getting copies of the token. But then you stop getting tokens. But still, it's not a bad thing. You either copy your own dudes, you copy your opponent's dudes. I understand why this is a rare. Clones are already like really nice to have in limited, just to, you know, come back on the board if you're behind it all. And this does that and then some. So limited, the double blue and the disturb is a little annoying, but this is like a 4 out of 5. This is fantastic. I managed to, if you're just playing like solid blue or blue black, yeah, this is like almost a 5 out of 5 then even. You just have to have some good, you know, some decent creatures, have some high end there, or have your opponent have some high end and then just wait like 2 or 3 turns. You see that big creature you got? I have 3 of them now, and I'm attacking. I'll let you kill your thing if you want to. Yeah, great card. Standard, still a really not bad card. More so for the disturb, but like solid. Oh, look at that! It's adorable. It's a it's a 2-mana 1/1 mischievous cat Geist with indestructible because your opponent won't be able to kill it because it's so adorable. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. No way to give it any sort of... It doesn't have any built-in evasion, I should say. So no flying, no unblockable, no... Yeah, so it's okay. Not great. Disturb gives that, you know, ability, gives the little Toski ability to whatever you enchant. It's alright. It's fine. More like a... I don't know, like a 1 out of 5 there. Not great, but... Nice little card. You get it for the artwork. You like it. Go cat tribal. Have a good time. Necro Duality is a 4-mana enchantment. Whenever a non-token zombie enters the battlefield under your control, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Because if it didn't, you know, make a token, or if it didn't say non-token, then it would just be a, like, nearly 1-card infinite combo, which would be cool. Well, let's see. So this specifically says it has to be a zombie. You can make a copy of the zombie. You get double zombies, so this obviously goes in zombie tribal. If you're, like, don't feel bad to pass this card if you're playing, you know, if you're playing draft and you just don't have, either you're not blue or you're not playing zombies, it's okay. Even if you are playing blue and whatever, if you don't have zombies, just let it go. Just let it go. And even for 4 mana, is it worth it? 4 mana do nothing, and then later on you double up on all your creature spells? Yeah, I think that's actually worth it. I would say it is. So because of that, standard 3 out of 5. I think it's alright. I don't hate it. And in limited, if you're playing zombies, it's a must include. This is like the card you kind of chase after, which is hard to chase for a mythic because those are hard to come by. If you get this pack 1, pick 1, you can probably force zombies and not really be too upset with yourself. So early on, it's amazing. Take it absolutely 5 out of 5. Later on, it can be a 0. Just do it, you know, based on how you're doing. If you only have a few zombies, I wouldn't take it. Okay. Talking about zombies. Speaking of zombies, oh my god. 5 mana, 3/3, flash flying zombie horror. There's a lot going on this card. And the artwork. Okay. So let's just ignore the rest of it for now. 4 mana, 3/3 flash flyer. That's a zombie, so it's relevant with other things. Well, that's damn good, isn't it? Imagine just playing 4 mana and getting 2 of those. That's nice. Exploit. Okay, what's the bonus there? When it exploits a creature, counter target spell, or activated ability or triggered ability, you could have stopped at 4 mana 3/3 flash flyer, and I would have been okay. And I would have liked it. I would have said, awesome, 3.5 out of 5. Without the other abilities. With the other abilities, absolute 5 out of 5. Nonsense, bonkers, insane card. Both ways, both formats. Probably going to see some play in other formats too, just because it's great. I don't know why they added that it can also counter activated and triggered abilities. Could have just been counter target spell, but they decided to just keep going with it. This has the format and the templating of a bad camera, and of a green card, where they just slap stats and words on things until it seems like it's worth it. But they put it on blue for some reason. This is the wrong color. Damn, this card's good. This card's insane. I love it. I will play a deck that runs 4 of these because it's not legendary, and never look back. Patchwork Crawler is a 2 mana zombie horror. That is 1/2. For 3 mana, exile target creature card from your graveyard and play +1/+1 counter on Patchwork Crawler. and it has all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled this way. We've seen a few cards that kind of do this sort of thing. It's not great. I honestly don't like these. But the fact that you can just exile things from your graveyard if you don't have any synergy down there and buff it up a little bit is okay. There are cards that care about the +1/+1 counters, so it kind of has slight synergy with those, but a 1 mana 1/2 baseline is pretty bad. That might pay off later. Ugh, not liking it. So for that, I would put it at a 2.5 out of 5. Later on in the game, if you get it, you can potentially make it into something kind of nasty, but early on, it really doesn't do much. It kind of puts you behind. And in Standard, because of that, it's worth nothing. Repository Scab. I still don't know how to pronounce just this word, but I believe it. I'm going to say Scab. It's probably meant to like be reminiscent of, like, you know, a scab you might get on your body, you know, like a, you know, something like that, and make you think of, like, you know, blistering wounds. But anyway, or festering wounds. Yeah, blisters work too. So 4 mana 3/3 with exploit. When it exploits a creature, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So I like the idea, like in the flavor text there, is that a Stitcher decided to create this zombie just to, you know, hold on to some lightning and like some spell energy for later on. It's just a receptacle. It's just a container. It's basically a capacitor. So, let's see. We've seen this kind of ability before. Usually doesn't require you to exploit, but the fact that it's like a zombie has some synergy with other cards is okay there. And you might want to exile things. I'm going to put it at about bear level. Yeah, 2 out of 5. And in Standard, no, maybe 1, but probably not a great use of your resources. Scattered Thoughts is a 4 mana instant. Look at the homunculus there. You know what? They make a lot of the... Many, not all, absolutely not all, but they make a lot of the homunculus look kind of adorable, not going to lie. He's kind of cute. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put 2 of those cards into your hand and the rest in your graveyard. So this sounds a lot like, you know, 4 mana, you know, draw 4-ish. You know, 2 and 2. I don't know why they didn't just say, oh, I know why, because they wanted to limit the cards that you put in the graveyard to the 4 that you look at. Instead of draw 4, discard 2. It's look at 4, and of those 4, pick 2. Okay, I gotcha. But still very reminiscent of like Chemist's Insight and other various 4 mana, you know, draw 2 effects. Yeah, absolutely great card. I wouldn't be surprised if this saw some play both ways. In Limited, this is fantastic card draw, especially almost specifically because of instant speed, and it has other things that synergize with the set mechanics. So yeah, this is like 3.5, 4 to 5 Limited. Refill your hand, you know, go nuts. In Standard, I would say 3.5 out of 5. This will almost certainly replace, what's that thing? Behold the Multiverse. In some decks, they just want graveyard stuff. Sure, it always costs 4 instead of sometimes costing 2, but putting things into graveyard could be part of the value, and it essentially turns into a draw 4. Screaming Swarm. Hey, look at that. They're almost rat birds, but they're octopus birds, and they're terrifying. 6 mana 4/4 flyer. Whenever you attack with 1 or more creatures, target player mills that many cards. So if you attack with 1 creature, they mill a card. Kind of boring. You can target yourself, but meh. And if you attack with 3 creatures, they mill 3 cards. It's something. But are you trying to win through milling, or are you trying to win through damage? I don't know. Those are conflicting goals. Oh, but I'm going to go wide, and then I'm going to attack with this 6-drop at some point. I guess it doesn't have to attack itself to trigger things, but still, I don't like the way the deck functions. I think it's too divided. And for 3 mana, you can put this from your graveyard into your library, take them from the top. It's a strange thing, take them from the top for some reason, I guess. Just, they don't want your opponent to kill it, you get it back immediately. You know, they want there to be some respite from the milling. I don't know. This card's not great for 6 mana. I'd say about bear stats. Well, 6 mana has a lot to invest into something to not get a great return on it. So in Limited, I'm going to say 1.5 out of 5. Standard, useless. Sure, someone's going to make a whole board. They're going to spam out 20 haste tokens, play this thing, attack, and mill your last few cards and win the game. If you can spam out that many things, you probably just win without the mill. Alright, Selhoff Entomber. So for 2 mana, you get a 1/3 zombie. You can tap, discard a creature card, draw a card. So it's Rummaging, where you discard and draw, but you have to discard a creature. And I hate it. It's going to be like a 0.5 out of 5, maybe a 1 out of 5 if you have Zombie Synergy in Limited, and 0 to 5 in Standard. I don't know why it has to be a creature card. It doesn't have to be. And it would still be decent at that mana cost. It still wouldn't be fantastic. It wouldn't be broken or busted at all. But they decided to make it even worse. I don't know. Serpentine, whatever. Ambush. 2 mana instant up till the end of turn because I couldn't read until. Target creature becomes a blue serpent with base power and toughness 5/5. Okay. Like I saw Jim Davis's review, and he mentioned like they pretty much print this effect every set, and they bump the numbers up until eventually it might become strong enough to actually see play. Limited is fine. Limited is nothing wrong with this. 2.5 out of 5. Either save it from removal via damage or just, trade up for 2 mana. It's not bad. Can get some surprise hits in there. And in Standard, there's going to be, maybe not in Standard, but in other formats, there's going to be some kind of combo where turn 2, this thing's a 5/5 all of a sudden. Like imagine turn 1, I don't know, play a 1/1. Turn 2, swing for 5. Okay. And that can be relevant for other things too. So it's good to turn on, pack tactics, if we're still doing that these days? I don't think so, but we can. And I guess it also works a little bit with training, where you suddenly, for a turn, you have a stronger creature, and then you can use that to trigger some training stuff. It's alright. In Standard, I think it might be 1 out of 5. In Limited, it's more so like a 2. Sky Warp Scab. 5 mana, 2/5 flyer. Enters the battlefield, you may exile 2 target creature cards from your graveyard if you do draw a card. I'm not really too big on this card at all. I like this even worse than a bear, even less than a bear. Like 5 mana for a 2/5. Could have been a 3/5, would have been okay. I'm gonna say 1 out of 5 in Limited. I don't like it. 0 out of 5 Standard? No? No. Soul Cipher Board is a 1 mana artifact. Enters the battlefield with 3 omen counters on it. You can pay 1 on a blue and tap this card. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into the graveyard. And I guess the other one stays on top. Whenever a creature card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, from this effect, from some other thing, from milling, anywhere, remove an omen counter from Soul Cipher Board. Then, if it has no omen counters on it, transform it because the omen has been fulfilled, and you get Cipher-Bound Spirit, a 3/2 with flying. And it can block only creatures with flying, and you can pay 4 mana, draw 2 cards, and then discard a card. There's a lot going on. I don't know why they had to have it only block flyers. I guess for 2 mana, it's not bad. And it can just naturally, you don't even have to invest mana into it to have the counters go away, but it'll take a bit longer. This is slightly similar to Maze Mind Tome. Worth noting, of course, a huge downside is that Maze Mind Tome had a way to trigger it for 0. You could just tap it and scry. And the other one is just draw a card. This is putting cards into your graveyard, which is not usually as good. Also, Maze Mind Tome eventually gained you life, which helped you stay in the game. Whereas this makes a 3/2 that can't block everything. That really has the best value of putting 4 mana into it to draw 2, discard 1. This is not Maze Mind Tome. Do not become confused. This is okay in Limited because at least it's something to do later on. Kind of a mana sink, even though it takes a little while. Can get there, and it's a good way to spend your next few turns. I could see this kind of running away with you getting value off the ability of this card, not necessarily this as a 3/2 flyer. So I'll say 2.5 out of 5 there, only because it takes so long and your opponent can definitely prepare for it. In Standard, this is a 0. It's not, maybe a 1, but more so a 0. It's not what I want to be playing. Steel-Clad Spirit is a 2 mana 3/3 defender, so it can't attack. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, Steel-Clad Spirit can attack, as though it didn't have defender. Suddenly it's like, oh, enchantment, how glorious! And with that glory, I hate you. I smack you in the face. yeah, this is okay. These kind of effects are seen multiple times through things like Linthawk Idol, where like when an enchantment enters the battlefield, or other things. I think there's like a Sphinx thing where whenever you play a non-creature spell that animates itself. These are kind of cool. This at least is still a creature at all times and can defend. It can just suddenly decide to smack you in the face if you play an enchantment. It's a spirit that cares about enchantments on the set where there's a lot of spirit and enchantment things that care about each other. Not bad. 2 out of 5. Just because otherwise you got a 2-mana 3/3, it doesn't do a whole lot. And if you have some other exploit cards, it's not bad. If there's no way to trigger this later on, sure, exploit it, get it off the battlefield, make some use of it. Cool. Okay. Stitched Assistant is a... Oh yeah, so that's unlimited. Standard's not really that great. A 3-mana, 3/2 zombie with exploits, and when it exploits a creature, scry 1, draw a card. It's kind of boring, not great. It's okay. It's fair. I'd say like 1.5, maybe, because it lets you scry 1 first, so you can potentially go 2 cards deep. I'll say 2 out of 5, but it's not great. And standard is useless. Storm Chaser Drake. Oh, this little guy. I say this little guy because from what I can tell, this might be on like a, or I should say, I can't tell from the artwork if this is like, you know, in like some cityscape, you're on some rooftop and that's like a whole big, like, you know, lightning tower or lightning rod, or if this is like a little tabletop science kit, because those little, the I don't know, the jars in the background or whatever, the little containers don't look so big. And the thing in the background there, like beyond that, looks kind of like it could be a battery. So I feel like this is just a little tabletop science kit and someone has a smoke machine going. This is a little tiny Drake going like, I don't know. I think it's cool. So 2 mana, 2/1 flyer. And whenever it becomes the target of a spell you control, draw a card. It's not bad. You just draw a card. There are ways to do that. You turn your, you know, some cantrips become double cantrips. Other things just become good. You can use this with enchantments because it's being targeted by the enchantment, and you draw a card. Helps get rid of the whole 2-for-1 aspect of a lot of auras. So yeah, not bad. If it was a spirit, it'd potentially be overpowered, or it would have to be at least a rare. But I hate that I say at least a rare, and that would have to at least cost 3. They would have to make it harder to come by, but not cost more mana in game. Damn, that's a weird mentality to have. Yeah. Not bad at all, though. I would mind playing 1, maybe even 2 of these. Even just a 2 mana, 2/1 flyer is kind of like a, you know, 2 out of 5. But with the bonus there, if you have ways to draw cards off of it, 3 out of 5. And standard, maybe even 3.5. Build a deck around it. Don't feel too bad. Syncopate, we've seen this card before. X and a blue for a counterspell, unless your opponent pays X. The upside to this is that if it gets countered, or if the spell you're countering gets countered, then it is exiled instead of going to the graveyard. It's okay. Control decks like to run 1 of these sometimes, because, you know, maybe there's that one thing you really want to counter, but usually it's not a great value for what you're doing. Also, sometimes, you know, control games often go to where you have a whole lot of mana for no good reason, so it's like, okay, I'll just use all this mana and counter your thing. Hey, you know, so it's alright, but not too keen on this. Limited, sure, you can run 1 of these, I wouldn't run 2. In standard, same thing, you can run 1 and not 2, so for that reason, 1.5 out of 5 both ways. Cool, that was easy. Siphon Essence. I like the pop of red they have in the middle of this card. I just think it's really cool. It's just, I like that that style. It just draws your attention to it. So, 3 mana instant. Counter target creature or planeswalker spell. Make a blood token. There's your blood token right over there. We understand now. How much is the blood token worth? I don't know. It's worth probably like about half a card, maybe. You pay 1, and you sacrifice the thing to rummage. To, you know, discard and draw. So blood. There is some other synergy with blood tokens that do not involve, you know, just using their own abilities. There are some cards where you can sacrifice blood tokens to their effect, or some things that care when you sacrifice tokens. So there is more value to that than what we've seen so far. But I hate these abilities where it's 3 mana counter a creature or planeswalker spell, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna play this. You know, this board wipe. I'm gonna play this enchantment that there's plenty of. Wish I could counter that, but I can't. So yeah. 1 out of 5 unlimited, 0 out of 5 standard. Like, this is a 1.5, this is a 1. Thirst for Discovery, 3 mana. Ooh, another one of those little thirsty cards. There we go. I say that as a serious thing. There are, like, a group, I don't want to say a cycle, maybe it is a cycle, of cards that say Thirst for, and it changes the card type it references, and the ability, which I will read to you now. 3 mana instant, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards, unless you discard a basic land card. Which, is this a reprint, or is this the first time I said basic land? I think Thirst for Knowledge was the one we recently had, was it Thirst for Meaning? I don't know. Where draw 3, discard 2, unless you discard an enchantment. And I think there's one for artifacts as well. I don't know if there's one for creatures, but this might complete the cycle. Although there's gonna be one that they didn't put in War of the Spark, whereas discard Planeswalker. Anywho, how do we feel about this card? I feel pretty damn good about this card. Let's just talk about numbers for a second here. Odds are your deck will be around 1/3 land, if not more than that. Usually a little more than that. So if you draw 3 cards, there's a good chance that one of them is going to be a land. Whether or not you want to keep that land in your hand is up to you, but you can just discard it, and you're not even giving your opponent that much information. Or you can discard some of the things and, fill your graveyard in a set that cares about graveyards. Yeah. Sorry. This is a very good version of the 3 mana draw 3 with minimal downside. So, on that note, yeah. We'll say 3.5 out of 5. Both ways, probably. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up to like a 4 out of 5 in standard, just because solid card, not much to take away. Wanderlight Spirit. I was going to say Wanderlight Sprite, which kind of still reads. 3 mana, 2/3 flyer. Wanderlight Spirit can block only creatures with flying. Very simple. Spirit there. It's okay. It's not great. I put it at about a bear if you have Spirit's Energy. If not, maybe just below a bear. And for the record, bear's a 2/2. For 2. So that's a 2 out of 5 for me. Standard, useless, limited, 1.5 to 2 out of 5 goes up if you have Spirit's Energy. Wash Away. 1 mana instant counter target spell that wasn't cast from its owner's hand. Okay, or you can pay 3 and it's just cancel. Just counter target spell. Now, that first part is like, well, 1 mana counter spell, that's nice, but how often are you going to be countering things that weren't cast from their hand? So in limited, that pretty much narrows it down to Disturb. And I guess it works with the Spyglass thing with the little, whatever, the investigator dude. Because you still, I think it's play the card, but you cast, yeah, you can play a land or you can cast a spell. Even though you're not paying any mana for it, you're still casting it, so it can still be countered. Now, aside from that, we're going to talk about standard now. We have Disturb. We have Flashback. We have Foretell. We have various other things that also do similar things. We have many ways to counter things. So this is basically your, I know blues get into the counter spell. If you couldn't duress the Oliver's Epiphany out of their hand early on, you can counter it for 1 mana. This card is quite alright. I think this card is actually really nice. Not much more to say about that. And the good thing is with Disturb, and Foretell and whatnot, you're kind of forecasting, hey, I want to cast this card at some point. I know I have this thing in the graveyard, or I invested 2 mana into this now. So your opponent's going to do it. You can keep 1 mana open pretty often. And if they don't have 1 mana open, and if they don't have any things in the graveyard or any things that you see they can play from, not their hand, then you can just hold up 3 mana. Then you know to do that or whatever. So as far as counterspells go, this is actually limited. Don't play too many. I'll say 3 out of 5. Standard though, even if you just put it in your sideboard, control deck wise, 4 out of 5 counterspells. I just like the other mana leak a little more, but damn, this card's not bad. Whispering Wizard is a 4 mana 3/2 human wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you make a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying, only once per turn though. So whenever you play an enchantment, hey, you make a spirit, hey, there's synergy there, it's okay. It's alright, it's not great. If you could just make unlimited spirits, if it wasn't once per turn, okay. Now we're talking, but it is once per turn, so we're not talking as much. We're just kind of gesturing, you know, but don't underestimate the importance of body language. So, yeah, 2 out of 5 in limited and largely a 0 out of 5 in standard. Sorry, I just don't think you make the cut. Winged or winged, if there was a little thing on the top. Portent. A 3-mana instant. Draw a card for each creature with flying you control, or pay 6 mana, one of which has to be green, to just draw a card for each creature you control. I mean, instant speed is okay, but 6 mana instant speed card draw, how many things are you going to draw? First off, you have to be playing Simic with this at least, so that's fairly narrow. I don't know why they picked like this sort of thing to go with it. They could have done something with like +1/+1 counters, leaned in on that Simic, like, you know, biotech engineering, you know, mutant hybridization kind of thing. Like, they could have gone for that. Instead, they went with like blue-green flyers, or just blue-green creatures. Like, I don't see it. This is okay with spirits. Like 3 mana, potentially draw 3 or 4 is nice, but I would not often ever play this. I can see you playing this in a blue deck, or even a blue-black deck, or a blue-white. But blue-green, those are not the colors I would ever play this card in, which is unfortunate because it gets rid of essentially half the card. I don't know. Weird design, don't like it. In limited, if you're playing flyers, okay, play one of these, and it could be like a 2.5, maybe 3 out of 5. It's largely going to be instant speed divination. If you are not, don't do it. Because in limited, you're probably going to have one creature when you get to 6 mana, or you're winning. Standard, I can see it seeing some play as basically whatever the winged words thing was, where it cost less if you had a flying creature, and it was like, you know, 3 mana or 2 mana, draw 3 or draw 2. Yeah. Witness the Future. 3 mana. It's funny. There's a guy at work whose name tag, it's not actually his name, but his name tag says Future. He goes by Future. And, it's funny. He's like, yes, I'm going to witness this guy. Alright, at least he used to work there until the incident. Sorcery speed. Target player shuffles up to 4 target cards from their graveyard into their library. You look at the top 4 cards of your library, then put one of them into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. God, this is a really weird, like, telling time, anticipate kind of thing. I don't know what you're doing. I guess you're going to try to use this on your opponent to try to get their disturb and flashback cards out of their graveyard back in their deck. So they put them back in their deck. Then you get look at the top 4, and you put one in your hand, the rest in the bottom. But it costs 3 mana. There is better graveyard hate and better card draw for 3 mana, or for various other mana costs that, like, I don't think you need this specific combination of effects in a card. So, and plus in limited, like, you actually put some things back in your opponent's deck you might not want them to put back in their deck, and they get to target the cards. No, up to 4 target cards from their graveyard. No, I think you target the cards, but it's just whoever you can target the graveyard. You still target them though as the owner of the spell. So honestly, 0 to 5 both ways. I do not like this card at all. It's trying to do too much and doesn't do anything very well. Wretched Throng. I'm not gonna say it. There's an R in that word. It's a throng. Okay. 2 mana, 2/1, zombie horror. When it dies, you may search your library for a card named Wretched Throng. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. It's okay. It's not great. We've seen other effects like that before. There was a Vampire Conquistador, which was kind of when I got back into playing things. In Ixalan, there's a few other cards. There was like some human soldier thing in Ikoria that was like an insect or something. It reminded me of insects. I don't know. That saw a little bit of play because it also had sacrificing. So this is okay with sacrifice cards. Take this, exploit it all day, get another one in your hand. Okay. Outside of that, I mean, it's not great, but it's okay. At least you can block. Worth noting, in draft, if you open more, or in any kind of limited format, if you open more than 4 of this, you can play all of them. You can play any number that you open in your cards, in your pool. So yeah, Standard, I think, is a little too slow. Even though, you know, it dies, you get a card out of your deck. Oh, that's kind of cool. It's still too slow. Unless there's some combo where you, like, repeatedly play them, and then get rid of them, and then you pull all of them out of your deck in one turn. I guess that means you just broke a Lauren, guys. Wow. But otherwise, outside of that, no. Okay, we got there. We did it. I got there. It took a little while again. I apologize, but I don't apologize, because those are my thoughts, and they're worth every penny. It's free to watch this video, so yeah, I know. Take that how you will. But as my throat is beginning to become sore because I've been talking to the world for over 2 hours now, I'm gonna... I don't really need to tell YouTube I'm gonna take a break, because for me it's a break of, like, you know, a few minutes here and there, 5-10 minutes. For you, it's like that. But anyhow, thank you very much for watching this. If you stay tuned through everything, then you're just a trooper. Honestly, thank you so much for the support. If not, I understand. I don't know how you're hearing this from me, but I get you. Don't worry. I'll try to make them shorter in the future. But until then, stay tuned for other reviews. I do want to review the rest of the cards. We got 2 colors done, and there's more to go. So feel free to follow me on Twitch. That'd be awesome if you did. Or join the Discord, whatever you want to do. Good night or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. But as always, good luck.